I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Five, consent agenda. A, May 16th, 2024, regular board meeting minutes. B, licenses and permits as presented. And C, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, I would need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the
I
consent
actually
agenda.
have a quick question.
Oh, sorry.
So, just because I'm looking at the amount of liquor license and that kind of thing, Hardtails, is this their new location or the old location, or do they have two?
Right now they have two until June 30th.
Okay,
This is for their new location.
I just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
And the Class A liquor for the flower shop, Always Beautiful, they haven't applied. Or renewed, I should say.
They haven't
As of yet.
renewed, but if they do, then we would, they
We
have
would
till
have to
June.
have a special board meeting.
Okay,
Yes, because it has, yes.
before the end of June. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
All right.
Very good motion.
You made a motion, who's second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, we would go to 6. I will need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. A, we will be discussing Nye Street speed limit.
So the basic suggestion is either to have Nice Street from Industrial Park all the way to Nash Street at 25 miles per hour, or to have it from Nash Street to right before Midway at 25, and then to 35 at that point to Industrial Park.
Is anyone signed up to speak?
Luke Ebbets, 371 Nye Street.
I guess I don't have a whole lot to say, other than I live on Nye Street, and I think I work from home, so I see all the traffic going through there every day, and it can be pretty speedy through there. And I think it would be nice to see it be 25 with the amount of kids that are in the neighborhood, and we have a real big backyard, and I see a lot of neighborhood kids come down to play, and I just think it would be nice to see that 25.
Are you talking 25 to Midway?
All the
or
way up to the industrial park.
Okay. Did everyone look at the speed board and see the, there really wasn't, it didn't seem like, Chris, was there a lot of speeding? It didn't seem extreme.
No, so the first couple of pages in that handout are the westbound lanes, so the first 3 are westbound. Speed limit is 25 miles an hour. 4,500, or 4,054 of them were doing between 25 and 30 miles an hour. Between 31 and 35 miles an hour, there was 3,003 that were exceeding the speed limit by 5 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour. And then it increases, because the sheet that I'm looking at goes up by 5 miles. So then it increases, so the average speed was within that 25. So it was 26 to 30 miles an hour. On another time, between 26 and 30 miles an hour. In that 25 mile an hour zone, there was 4,000. So going the eastbound, so the next pieces of paper, this board here was moved to we had it out by Midway Road, and we moved it closer to the 25 mile an hour zone. So this one here is all the 25, so at a 25 mile an hour speed limit, we had 4,773 cars that were doing between 26 and 30 miles an hour, which is kind of where we want them. Between 31 and 35, there was 1,451. If you go the other way, we have 1,795 cars that were going under the speed limit. So, then we moved the last 3 pages, I think 3 or 4 pages, 5 pages, is when the speed board was out on the 35 mile an hour out by Midway. Again, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, so 36 to 40 miles per hour was the greatest range at 4,679 cars. So they're doing anywhere between 1 and 5, that's your average. On the back of the paper, it's, if you flip over the back side, there's a chart. It really is really easy to figure out what. So if you look on the front and it says 25 miles an hour, and you look at it, most people are doing between 26 and 30 miles an hour in that 25 mile an hour zone. These are very, very useful, these speed boards for us. Here's another 25 mile an hour, so 25, you have 26 to 30 miles an hour is your highest that they're doing. You have a couple of them, but the couple of them could be the fire department responding to the fire department, or the fire department responding from the fire department along with EMS. It could be Outagamie County Sheriff's Department, it could be our police department responding to a call. You know, taking that route to get to that portion of the county. So, when you look at this and you kind of pick out the big numbers, so on one of them that I'm looking, we had somebody doing, in a 25, we had somebody doing 55 to 60 miles an hour. Odds are that's law enforcement or fire department responding to a call. It could be the public. I mean, it could be. But,
Which is very low.
yeah.
Yeah.
So exceeding the posted speed limit really isn't an issue on this.
Mm,
That's not the issue.
no,
The issue is concerned safety.
safety.
So I went out there, there's from Midway out, between Midway and the industrial park, there's only 4 residences that have driveways that come out to there. So it gets pretty sparse after Midway. I went to one, and the one that's furthest out into on the south side, and they weren't aware that, I know we sent letters, but they still weren't aware that it was up for potential change. And the people I talked to there expressed that they were not interested in having it be 25. I talked to some people in my neighborhood who have to drive on that every day. Some people said that they would like it to be 25, and some of the residents said they would like it to be 35. So it's kind of a mix in the area that's right off of that Parker Heights area. I didn't get outside of that area to talk to anybody else, but I did get a mixed result when I spoke to
Wild Wind is
To the west.
to the west. But she won't let her child ride her bike there, it's not safe enough to. But this is a growing community, there are a lot of kids riding their bikes, I would love to support that.
Well, to be able to bike to Wildland, that's in Hortonia, and I spoke to one of the board members in Hortonia, and they didn't seem very interested at all in addressing the change in the speed limit out there. So, no matter what, they're still gonna be in a 45-mile-an-hour speed zone for the time being, because our jurisdiction only goes up to the industrial park. Yeah, I would like to see it go to 35. Personally, I'd like to see it go to 35 out to Wildwood, just to reduce it, so that way that additional traffic that we added with that subdivision, now we added additional traffic that I could see slowing it down from 45.
You don't gotta-
But it's
you don't
not
have to-
our,
You don't have to tell me,
but it's not our
tell
area.
the residents that.
Yeah, but it's not.
The
yeah.
residents wanna see it be 25.
Well, you brought up that somebody wanted to bike out there, but what I'm saying is that no matter what we do, they still won't be able to address that concern, because the roadway to get to Wildwinds is in Hortonia.
It would become safer.
It'll still be 45 miles an hour, so if they consider
would-
45 unsafe, it doesn't make it any safer.
It would become safer. You would have access to the industrial park street, you can get to Charlie's, it just improves bikeability.
Charlie's is not the way, you wouldn't go through the industrial park to get to Charlie's on a bike.
You could.
Well, yeah, you could.
I've
You
biked
could,
that.
you could drive all the way out to T as well, but
I
most
biked
people,
that
most
loop
people would go
before.
through Birch and come out to the road that's closest to Charlie's instead
But
of,
isn't that 35 on that road too?
no, well, yeah, once you get back out to Main Street, it's double J out there, it's 35.
I-
The road that Charlie's is on is 35.
That's what I'm saying, it's 35, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Which I did bring up in a previous meeting, that there was a resident asking if that could eventually be 25 miles per hour. Saying, set it up so that it's pedestrian or cycling friendly. I think I was looking up data, and of all the folks that live in town, I think many of them commute by car, and there was 300 that prefer cycling to work, so you improve bikeability, increase even more people having the option to bike to school and work. We're having conversations about a bike path going downtown, and this bike path that's connecting from Greenville to here to New London, it's just naturally heading in that direction. And not to forget that we've had residents attending this and chiming in on their thoughts. They live right on that street, and I hear their voices, and they're saying what they'd like to see, and I want to listen to them.
Any other comments?
Well, this is a public hearing, so I don't think they have to sign up if they want to speak, right?
Right.
So
Are
if
there
anybody
any
else
other
has anything
comments?
that they want to say.
I'd like to see 25. There was 2 motorcycles that went by about 100 miles an hour this week. Sunday in the afternoon. Sitting outside with my daughter in the driveway, 2 years old, on her bike. They had not a care in the world that she was standing there. Car went by today. I got home from work at 60 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. It's become, that road, especially with JJ being closed now for construction again, is just a racetrack. It's not what it should be.
But we have this speed study, so
I
it doesn't show
understand
that
that, but you still
anyone's
have-
going 100 miles an hour.
I guarantee, were those up on Sunday?
This is not data from this Sunday.
Okay.
Okay.
I I'm telling you when I saw it. If I could've got my phone out of my pocket fast enough, I would've showed you the video. I literally couldn't. I was more worried about my daughter going on the road.
And there is no more detour, we're gonna see less traffic on that road.
And when it was open, it got a lot better. It was a lot better.
Right, right.
Which, so if you do reduce it to 25 all the way in the industrial park, it's not gonna be that big of an effect because you're still not gonna have that much traffic. You're gonna have the people that live in that area.
Any
What's
other
it- what's
questions?
Like I said, I live right where that transition is between 35 and 45. And it's a nightmare because people just automatically see that sign, 45, as they're hitting the 35 zone, and it's just an acceleration. So if it's 25 and it goes to 35, they're gonna be doing the same thing.
I will agree, people do that, they see the speed limit that increases, and they're like way before it, they're already on the throttle and speeding up for that.
Like it's bad enough because you see all three signs. It's what, a quarter of a mile roughly for all three of those?
It's probably hard to enforce, I guess, that's what I'm thinking too.
It is,
If I'm-
it's
yeah.
very difficult when you have, such a short little, the problem is there's really not a lot of areas that we can sit on there to do radar. You have to sit on the side of the road, and then, your handheld radars don't go through windshields. So that's why when you see somebody sitting this way and the road's this way, then they have their radar that they can put out the window versus the one that's stationary, which goes through the windshield. So you have to take that into consideration for us to be policing.
You can come sit in my driveway, I'll give you permission. I've actually given one of your officers permission.
Sure.
I have a question about and I know that this is regarding 9, but I'm just looking at consistency. So we just made a change on M to enable the ATV, UTV, so it goes right from, is that 55 to 25?
No, it goes 55, 45, 25
Okay, but the 25 got moved quite a bit back, a lot, okay. And then coming into Hortonville from the south on M goes, that is 55 to 25, but you're also going up a hill, but then you're going down a hill. Yep, okay. And then Main Street from the west, we've talked about that once that's redone, that when you mentioned it, that we'd look at possibly lowering the speed limit down to 25. Right now it's at 35. I'm just looking at consistency. So looking at the plan for coming in from the east, if I remember right, we're looking at reducing the speed from Greendale from Kellyway. We're looking at reducing the speed, and that's potentially 25 at that, 35. 35. So what's easier to enforce? Are we asking, are we creating speed traps, or are we creating a nightmare for, I guess, we want to think about safety, but I also think about, like, if I was set to enforce that, how would I enforce a 45, 35, 25, how do you do that?
Well,
That's not one of the, I guess my thought is your options are the two options here.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that right now it's not working,
Yeah.
right? So we all came to that conclusion.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding option.
Basically option 1 is pushing the 25 out to where basically right now it turns to 45.
At like midway.
Right. And then it goes to 35 at that point,
Until you get
To the
to the end of
industrial
town.
park.
to the end of the industrial park.
Until you get to over 20.
But coming into town, it would be, you're going from like a 45 or 50 or 45 down to 35, then down to 25.
But at a different point.
It would-
Right, but
Different
it's over a
points.
longer
Okay.
period of time
Yeah.
rather than,
Okay. And then option 2, I just want to make sure maybe I'm misunderstanding. So option 2,
25 all the way until the industrial park.
So we go from 25 to 45 at that point, and 45 to 25.
I think one big difference between all our other entry points where it turns to 25 is you have two large, very large farms that are open right now. So realistically, it's a little different when you're coming in on like Salt Nash. You're going 45, and then all of a sudden you got houses on both sides. You're thinning, the road's thinning. So I think my suggestion is if you guys are contemplating going to 25 there, I would have an actual speed study done by the county. I think realistically, I mean, if you change it to 35, and then you basically could do a speed study, and based on that data, you could use that to kind of decide if you wanted to go down to 25.
So choosing option one, with the caveat that we would do a speed study, or request a speed study there, and then based on that data coming in, we could either extend the 25 or keep it at that 35
Right.
from industrial to Midway, but do a speed study so that.
Because then you're getting advice from people who are engineers in this and deal with this 24/7. My views, Chief's views, Aaron's views are very limited in our knowledge on.
Well, and this is helpful, super
Roads.
helpful, but, you know,
Right.
you know, it's surprising, and then I wonder too, like, so like when people are hitting the brakes, that's why I asked, like, when is it recording that information? Like, when that speed appears, or like 4 seconds after, or, you know, like if somebody sees that they're doing 45 and a 25, when is it recording it? Is it right when that 45 comes up? That's really was my question there.
Right, so the numbers are even probably on one side better and
Mhm.
the other side worse.
Yeah.
But
Any other comments from anyone?
What's the benefit of it being 35 and not 25?
I think it's, in my opinion, it's the natural speed that you go if you're not paying attention to the speed limit in that area. I think it's hard to get up to 55 unless you're pushing, or to 50 unless you're pushing it. Where if you are just driving, so we've done this plenty of times, and driving out, 45 is a little high to get to. 40 seems not as bad. You're not speeding, you're not taking forever. Where if you're at 25 going all the way through this, I don't think you're gonna have, I think you're gonna have an even worse speeding problem because people aren't gonna pay attention. And then it's a lot of enforcement, and then you're gonna get a lot of complaints. And when the complaints come in, then we will send them to the board to discuss, because realistically, it's your guys' choice, and then they can come and complain to you on it. I don't have an issue with doing it if the county and you guys decide it makes sense, but I think it's a little much to go down to 25, and even actually on M and double M, we have issues right now going to 25. It's a pain. It's hard for people coming in to be at that 25 at that point all the way through. And that's even a more centralized vision corridor there compared to here. The guys that are going 100 on their motorcycles, they don't care. If it's 25, you could have it at 10, they're still gonna do it because they're basically speeding to speed on their motorcycles. I don't think you're really gonna affect those people by changing the speed limit. They're not paying attention to the current speed limit, they're not gonna pay attention to the updated one. So I think there's a few different things. That's why I would suggest having the county do a speed study for us, if you wanted to drop it to the 25 mile per hour zone.
I hear what you're saying, and it does make sense, but I'm gonna advocate for people and not vehicles. I've come in on M, I noticed it was 25, because we talked about that, and I had zero trouble slowing down to 25. It's the law.
I get your point. I was just
I'm hearing a lot of room being
Staff.
held. I'm hearing a lot of room being held for vehicles, and I think that people and residents we are more important, and this is their community. It's not the vehicle's neighborhood. It's theirs.
So we could do the 35, change to 35, and then do a speed study, and then change it if we deem back down to 25. That's not a problem.
A speed study, you know, it backed it up.
It legitimizes it, yeah. Right.
And I hear you, Grace, I totally do. I mean, there's residents there, and we gotta listen to them, but I also look at this and say, and this data is great, but I'd like to see that speed study, and if this is a compromise that, even if this is a temporary until we get that data, at least this backs that 25 up to Midway. It's better than it is now.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, then I would need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Roll call. Jim?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. 7, pre-registered citizens to be heard.
There are none.
Okay. 8, committee reports. A, library board. Jane is out. 9, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. 10, new business. A, discussion and possible action on Nye Street speed limit change. We would need a motion if we want to go ahead with this, and
Right.
which one we would like.
I'll make a motion to adjust the Nye Street speed limits in accordance with option 1. That's the 35.
To Midway? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be to Midway,
To
then 35.
35 to,
to
from
Industrial
Industrial
Park.
Park to Midway, and 25 from Midway the rest of the way into town.
And do we want to put in the motion about the speed study?
Oh, do we need to add?
I mean, yeah.
I'd like it added.
Okay, then, as well as having a speed study done for recommendations.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, B, we are not going to, so we will go to C. Discussion and possible action on North Mill Street Construction Services contract with MSA.
So this was in your packet. Basically, it would be hiring MSA to handle the construction-related services, as far as doing the construction administration, doing all the meetings with the contractor, doing the construction staking, and then having somebody on site to verify things are getting put in the right place. The one caveat to this is right now it's for an estimated fee of $60,000, but that is, this contract will be a time and materials contract, so that fee is based on having someone on site for 8 hours a day for 40 days. And depending on the situation, how the contractor is doing, they may not need to be out there as long. So then if that's the case, we'll cut that back, so it probably won't be the full 60. But they're also the design engineers, so it helps having them on site.
Are there any questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the MSA contract for North Mill Street Construction Services not to exceed the amount of $60,000.
I'll second that.
Roll call. Jim?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. D, discussion and possible action on trail location in the downtown.
So, I guess at this point, we kind of need to give some direction on where the village board would like that trail to go. whether they wanted it to go behind the downtown, or where they would like it to go at this point. They need it in order to move forward on design.
We're just talking about the space between Miller Park and,
Yeah.
Veterans
Nash,
Park.
Yeah,
or all the way to Veterans Park?
veterans.
Okay. So, I thought we were gonna put it
Well-
on the south side of the road from Veterans to Nash.
All the way through the downtown?
To Nash.
Yeah. So that would be a separate discussion.
Okay, so we're just doing Nash.
We already
to-
have an easement through there.
So Nash to Miller Park.
It's basically, what we're talking about is Nash to Mill.
Nash to Mill, okay, Nash
Right.
Street to Mill.
Mill Street, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, and we've got this sample here, but the other sample was the much reduced sidewalks and the much reduced lanes, if I remember right, when Ron Wolf was here. And have we done any more feasibility and whether that trail could go behind on the south, behind the buildings?
Not until we get a contract, we're getting a contract from Ayers for design at this point. So maybe in the future we'll have an engineering to do that. But, yeah.
And if that's a flop, we'd have to look at other options. Is it anticipated
It
to
would
potentially
only
flop?
be a flop if, financially.
Right.
It's feasible to make it through there, it's just how much is it gonna cost? But there is a way through there right now.
I guess this is a little unclear to me what you're looking for. Do you wanna talk about the trail, or do you wanna approve, this street design?
That was from last meeting. That was just something for the board if they wanted to look at it for the future, if they have someone who has questions about the central section. We're talking only about the trail at this point. This layout was already approved at a prior meeting. The issue is basically the trail at this point.
I believe we just need to figure out a way to get the trail
Yeah,
behind the buildings
Is
and,
there-
and
any other option?
I was just gonna say.
I don't think there is another option, is there? Other than redoing our
Potentially,
downtown.
on the other side, halfway through, you still gotta go off the same exit.
crossing traffic and going to the north side and.
North side,
Yeah.
there's really not a viable option unless you get rid of all traffic through the alleyway there. Cause there's really not enough room
But you're
really
crossing
to
the road
separate
either
it
way.
out.
Yeah, you'd have to cross, we'd have to
But
cross
then you
Main
have to
Street.
cross
or-
back
Which
over
would
again then too.
Also would take away a lot of parking,
Yeah.
And then get back to the other side again.
yeah.
By us deciding this gives you, does this launch you into a direction you wanna go for that trail? Like,
It basically gives our engineers from Ayers the pathway for designing the trail through that area, for behind the downtown. It gives the engineering firm on the main street able to go forward. And I don't know.
cause we can keep beating the dead horse. I think, honestly, I think we just need to make the decision and go with it and be done with it and sort it out from there. And, you know, are you looking for a motion?
We would need a motion.
I will make a motion to locate the trail from Nash and Main to Mill and Main to the south behind the businesses along the creek area.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? And abstained, Mrs. Grace? Motion carried. E, discussion and possible action on R-15-24 compliance maintenance resolution.
So this report was in the packet. It's basically a report on our sanitary sewer facilities for the year. The one thing, the report that's in your packet is a draft. It can't be finalized until we have a resolution. So the one thing that didn't show up on the report was the grading. If you look at the sections, it's blank, but it's a A for every single section.
No red flags, anything. So you just need a motion for this resolution.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve R-15-24, the compliance maintenance resolution.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. F, discussion and possible action on TID 4 contract to amend TID sharing.
So, that contract for TID 4 is basically allowing us to share the funds from TID 4 to TID 5, which is basically taking the portion of the funds from the west side that's generated by mostly SC Swiderski and Cottages on Main. So a good portion of that will be transferred to TID 5 in order to help fund the downtown reconstruction.
Wasn't this kind of how these were set up initially? 'Cause it looked
Yeah,
like
the
just-
county didn't want to, at that time, basically make them sharing, because they wanted to see if TID 5 would be successful, so to placate them, we kind of waited.
And this doesn't have to go through joint review?
The final amendment would,
Okay.
but this is a contract to do the final amendment, so it'll come back with the amendment, and, yeah, at a future date.
I thought we had to take Swiderski out of that TID because of the percentage of.
No, we amended that TID to add in more land in order to.
Oh, okay, in order to
Yep.
meet the
Threshold,
okay.
yep.
So what are you looking for tonight, Nathan? Just an approval of?
An approval of the contract for TID 4 as presented.
Okay, I'll make that motion for approval of the contract. I know, but with Ellers, right? You want it with Ellers? Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, sure.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. G, discussion and possible action on TID 5 contract to amend project list.
So TID 5 is basically changing the project listing. The current list has too low of numbers in it anyway. So realistically, it needs to be amended in order to fund those the projects that we're gonna be putting in there. One would be basically part of if we wanna do any utility work in the behind the downtown, any shoreline work in the downtown, we gotta put those estimations in there. The only thing that's we're kind of debating here is there's another contract to amend TID 5 that has a territory amendment to it. It's not much more. You only get 4 territory amendments. The TID was created in 2017. It's a blighted TID, so I believe it's around 29 years in total. So at this point, I would suggest just not doing the territory amendment to add in more territory to that TID, just because I don't see the reason to add anything in when we don't have anything going on in that area. It's one thing if we have something that's potentially coming in there to grab that up, but at this point, it's a little, can be problematic for basically adding in extra land that we don't necessarily need. In the future, if a year from now, if someone wants to, let's say, do anything with the canning factory, then we could add it in. And even if they did the whole construction in that year, it's based off of January 1st. So realistically, we could always do another amendment if it made sense. The issue is it's hard for us to, A, judge what's actually gonna happen in these areas. you have a limited amount of space which you can have. We have a 12% threshold for equalized value. We're pretty low right now, so it's not like there's a huge issue with that. But to us adding in some of the smaller projects in that area, like the Schwann Oil property and anything else in that area, because we also don't want to take every single bit of increment that comes in that area, just because then it ends up hurting us on the general fund side.
Is
So-
there any property in maybe I need to look at the boundaries of the TIDs,
That's what I was gonna ask.
but if TID 5, it's the downtown, I remember that, but I don't know where it cuts off. Does it cut off like at
Miller Park.
Miller Park, but I'm thinking the other end.
South side.
The other end, it goes up, it goes to the empty corner lot across from BP and actually attaches into Bethlehem.
That was my question. If it included Bethlehem.
And
Okay.
and going south, how far is it?
It doesn't go south farther than I think, Memorial Square. It really stays in that area. It's got to be blighted, so it had to kind of grab certain properties that were considered junk properties that could be used and updated.
And we can change the territory later, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have a limited amount of amendments to do it
So for territory amendments, you have 4.
for the pool. There.
Right. We haven't used one, but there's probably 1 or 2 properties that we've looked at that would potentially be updated if we would do a Territory 5 amendment. Very small single-family homes, so you're talking potentially $3,000 a year, about $50,000 estimated over a 15-year period or so. So I think realistically, if we keep grabbing anything that comes up, then our general fund is going to have lower amount of net new construction. So let's say for staffing purposes, for raises, for any type of increase in budget, it's going to limit that potential because it's going to the TID, not to the general fund. So that's the other thing, is that you don't want to just keep grabbing everything you can unless it makes sense financially. So that would be why my suggestion would be to just do the non-territory amendment.
Any other questions? If not, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the TID 5 contract to amend the project list.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Right.
Motion carried. H, discussion and possible action on express bill pay.
So part of the reason that this is being brought to you guys is express bill pay was always, they work hand in hand with Civic. They have for years, and when we were initially looking for credit card readers in the village, we looked at them. The issue we had at that time was they only had a structure that basically made it so the village would have to pay all fees associated with it. Now they've changed that so that it is on the resident, like our current system is. We've had issues with our current setup, the way it is currently currently operates. We've had issues where it's not taking payments. It's not recording payments. People's payments have been taken out. There was a few different issues. There was one lady, I think, who paid, it was 3 times, and it took it out of her bank account, but it didn't show up on her account. Those issues were fixed, but still currently, once in a while, we do have it where it won't accept a payment at a certain hour because there's a disconnect between software and our IT. So then we have to call our IT people to fix the issue. So we've had issues with that. I think we looked at Express Bill Pay when they gave us a presentation. It would be a little more expensive for the village and customers. I think it's a better product overall. I guess at this point, a few different things that they have is they have mobile pay with text. They also allow you to do future payments, so you can set up future recurring payments. So if I'm a resident that wants to do a payment every 2 weeks when I get paid, I can set that up that it takes it out a certain amount every 2 weeks when I get paid. Rather than right now, you have to either remember to go there to pay it, or you can pay the whole thing. So I think it gives you a little more, a little better capabilities, and yeah, that's kind of.
It sounds like you guys have done a lot of like the research and stuff. What?
Well, yeah, because we're not too happy about this because of the fact that we just swapped over last year to this other system, and yeah, it just.
Is that the one you had me try? That-
Yeah, yep. The other system's not, I don't think the customer portal is as intuitive as this one is when going to the website to pay a bill or to look at bills. The other really good feature this one has is a shopping cart feature. So the village, when we do a payment, if we wanted to pay online to ourselves, which we do, we don't now, other than through testing, but if we wanted to take all of our 9 or 10 accounts, we'd have to pay a fee for every single one of those currently in the system, so we don't use it. With this system, it would actually make more sense potentially for us to just do it digitally, because it would be cheaper than us basically having someone cut those checks and send them to ourselves and transfer it that way.
So if somebody had multiple properties and they were paying multiple water
Right.
bills, this would just, that would
So
enable
multiple
that.
properties, or some residents have 2 water bills
Yeah.
because they have a outside spigot that they have separated out because it's water only instead of sewer. So they'll do that, and they wouldn't have to pay for those 2, they could do it in one payment. So I think at this, my request would be that the village board allows staff to kind of go forward, and based on, Jane and I have sat in on 2 presentations, but we want to have the rest of our frontline staff sit through those exact same presentations, ask their questions, and basically, if nothing comes up, to move forward with switching to this. If there's an issue, then we would probably like to cancel it, or not move forward with it, I guess, so.
Is there an issue with canceling it at all?
No, I mean, we wouldn't agree to a contract until after our staff has gone through and asked their questions. But I meant village board wise, if they give staff the ability to decide on whether or not to move forward with the program or not. Otherwise, I could bring it back to you after our staff goes through that.
Would it just be more efficient for us to give you that ability to make that decision once?
Potentially, I mean, if it was something where there was an issue that popped up that we were somewhat concerned with, I think we'd probably still bring it back, just to kind of get your opinions. But if there's no issues to move forward with it, or if the issues that might come up are a little, not much different than what we're currently dealing with.
How many people are utilizing the system now?
I think a few hundred only. I don't have the exact numbers. I saw the lists one day, and that's how many people who are users. I don't know how many are currently using it, like every other month, because I know there's some that are signed up, but they're not, they might not be doing payments. They might do one, they might have been some of the people we had doing samples. I don't think it's getting utilized as much as we hope it would be, but it's kind of hard. We haven't also promoted it because of the issues we've been having with it, we don't want to promote something until it basically is ready and doesn't have the issues that we've ran into.
Okay, and if we do end up switching, is everybody gonna have to,
Yes,
okay.
How did
they would have
you,
to create new accounts.
how did you,
Civic Systems, who's our financial advisor, or our financial software service company, they have preferred partners. So years ago, when we were looking into, credit card payment systems, we were looking at Express Bill Pay, and that's how we found them. When we went through basically the presentation then, Jenny and I both had concerns over the funding of the payments, basically the village paying those fees, because there's no way that we could charge that and then potentially charge it back to the resident at all. So the village would just have to eat those fees, and that's why we decided there's no reason to move forward with this one. We let them know, so when they did change the structure, they called us back.
Seems a lot more user-friendly.
So as somebody who collects these payments, is it user-friendly? Do you prefer a credit card payment or do you prefer a check payment? What's easier for you to process it? Like the man hours, credit card payments are easier. So if we were to switch, I mean, this could also be a nice rollout, even QR codes on the water bills and that sort of thing, where people could just,
And we can set it up so they can pay property taxes, bartender licenses.
just something as simple as that.
That would be nice.
Because I think that's the hurdle for me personally, well, that's the fee. But the other hurdle I had was, okay, well, if I want to pay this, now I gotta log into this, where if there's just a QR code right on there, it takes me right where I need to go, that would be huge. I'd like to give you guys the ability to just make a decision if you feel really comfortable with this and confident with this, but if you have hesitation, I know you're gonna bring it back to us. So, what do you want the motion to say that gives you the ability to make the decision?
I guess if you approve it, I can always bring it back, and if we don't want to go forward with it, I can bring it back and just kind of say, hey, this is what we came up with, and this is why we're not going forward with it. If you guys have an issue, we can change it, so.
I think it'd be great for you to move forward. I would be curious, I guess, what other municipalities are also using. I see that these are just some of their references.
I think that's their
Are they-
more extensive list of municipalities in Wisconsin and Minnesota. I don't think there's more than what they have here. Would be my
If you were curious enough to shop around. But
the issue is shopping around, so we have basically two options if we want the setup to be work with our system. So they have to have, basically, MSB just recently became a provider with Cassell so that they integrate. So when a payment's made on the water side, it goes directly into our system. There's no button there's nothing that our water sewer person has to actually log. So it's all integrated. So these are the two options we have that could be integrated. If we want to go non-integrated, then you have a lot more other options. We've looked into multiple others. The first time when we did MSB, we did Point and Pay is one. There's a few others I know some of the other municipalities do use. A lot of them we had issues with.
Well, then you got human error issue potential.
Yeah, the interface
The
takes out
extra
that
interface with the human
error
error problem.
and human work too. The interface
It's
is
nice that it's compatible with our Civic. It'll make the job so much easier, won't it? Yeah. We would just need a motion for them to go ahead with this.
I'll make a motion for staff to proceed with the express bill pay, and if there are any concerns, that they come back to the board. Otherwise, they have the ability to switch over.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim.
Aye.
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 I
Aye.
Motion carried. I, discussion and possible action on setting up future cow for downtown lights and benches and et cetera.
So we really need the cow mostly right now for the lights, the benches and everything else. If it's not being installed, I don't think there's really much that needs to be designed in with the engineering. The lights do though, because depending on the fixture, it might determine how many we need and whatnot, so.
So are you thinking we could do it right before the next board meeting? Or do you want it sooner?
I don't know, probably next board meeting would be fine.
So are you thinking a half hour?
No, I would do at least an hour,
Hour?
at least.
Is everyone okay with that
I
at the
mean,
next board meeting?
There's hundreds
At
of
5?
flights, and depending on how, I mean, I sent the link to you guys, I don't know how much.
Do you have like it narrowed down at all to, I mean, I know we can't discuss it tonight, but do you have it narrowed down to even like your top 25 or?
There's a lot.
I mean,
Well, yeah, I saw it, but I'm even wondering
Yeah.
too, like I was looking at, just to get an idea of the time frame for that meeting.
I mean, we can try to get some,
We could ask our consultant for recommendations.
Or even the list of what was put on in front of the school, you know, what's been put in recently, so at least we kind of know so that we're being consistent.
right. Yeah, I think we could get a group of a few, but I also don't want to preclude any if you guys have seen some that you like that we don't end up coming with. So,
Okay.
we
We
can
could all-
get a
we could
group
all
of
bring our
staff to,
favorites.
Yep, we can bring our favorites, other than dragging around, taking pictures of what's out there.
I mean, most of them are, to be honest, most of them are very similar to what we put in by the school district, you know,
Yeah.
the little hook lights. I mean, that's what you're gonna see a lot. You're gonna see a lot of the acorn lights that we have currently, that, we have a few of them. We have a mixture of different lighting, downtown, but, so,
So you think an hour we should, I mean, a board meeting can start late, we just can't start
Right.
early, so.
I mean, I'm just basing it on like the color scheme discussion we had with, the pickleball courts. Pretty long, so I just wanna make sure.
That was painful.
Right, so I just
Okay.
wanna make sure we have enough time, I guess. I'll try to narrow some down.
And that one, the public can
Yep.
totally participate.
Is everyone okay for 5?
Are we talking the next
20th.
meeting? here,
June
the 20th?
20th?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to make it by 5.
Okay.
Could we have it be 2 meetings if it needs to be that way? Just see how it goes on for that 1 hour of time, and if it's like, hey, we need more time.
Well, we don't have to start the meeting, the village board at 6. There's no, as long as we're not starting early the village board meeting, we're good to start late. Granted, if you need more time and the board just asks for more time, I mean, it is what it is. I would suggest probably doing a separate meeting, because the longer we kind of make them hold on stuff, you know, the more they're gonna use it as an excuse not getting stuff done. And we need quotes for expenses, so that we can do some of our financial analyzing and stuff.
So are you suggesting not doing it prior to a board meeting?
I think if we need more than an hour, I think we're probably gonna have to do a special board meeting, because we're not having the 4th of July meeting. So, I think, right,
We can go over.
That's what
And
I
start
We can
board
go over,
meeting
we can
late.
always start a board meeting late, but
Right.
then, yep, but then the
So
clock.
let's just leave it at
Yeah.
the
If they
June
want it,
20th at
I mean,
5.
if, you can always decide that night if you guys are all in agreement to,
Waiting for our light bulb moment.
right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, then we will go to J, discussion on general business promotion.
I brought that up. I was looking at some data, and I saw there's like 93 entrepreneurs in Hortonville, and I think there's more businesses here than we realize. And my quick idea is like if we could find them all, contact them all, and offer to like put them in the Village Voice for like $10 or $20, just so they have like a line in there. Make it really easy for them to get their information into a public public space where every resident is like, oh wow, all of these businesses are right here in town.
We do have a business listing, if anyone would be interested in it, correct? We still keep that up?
Yeah, well, we do, but the issue is there's businesses that start that don't tell us. We don't have a business license, so that makes it really hard for us to know what businesses are starting. And that's kind of where we came into problems on sometimes is, you know, we don't get that information, they don't reach out to us, and we don't know they're there. That's kind of the only issue we have with trying to do some of it. And a lot of that stuff is something that typically is done by a chamber.
So could we maybe, and maybe we already do, with the Village Voice, you know, offer like the chamber corner or something where the chamber then works with businesses to determine like how they want to spend that time of,
You could do that.
but then that requires staff resources. I get it. I
No,
don't,
not
I don't wanna-
necessarily that. I would just say, remember, your chamber is more than the village. Your
Yeah.
chamber is Grand Chute, Greenville, and the village.
Mhm.
So realistically, they're probably gonna be promoting things that sometimes aren't in the village. So that's kind of where it's like, well, I mean, it's up to you guys on what you want to do with that. I mean, it's not a bad idea to have a chamber corner, but I don't think it's gonna also list, I mean, it's not like I think you'd wanna kind of limit what could be in that space, because,
Well, we're the public sector too. I'm kind of
Right.
curious with legal the opinion on this too. I mean, other municipalities probably are in that same boat where you want to promote business, but like, where do we sit?
I mean, I think as long as you're treating everybody equitably, fairly, that's fine. It's not, it doesn't really become a legal question until you're telling someone you can't participate because we don't like that you are a tattoo shop or, you know, whatever it might be. I don't have any legal concerns from that standpoint.
My thought is like when you, Grace, where you're saying like we contact businesses, I worry about then we miss businesses that we don't know about because there's some that are out of homes and we just don't know.
But if we can start making those connections, if they hear about that, then they can definitely get in on it.
Can you post it on the website? Businesses?
yeah, I mean,
think there's some now.
That would be a
You could
cheaper
do something
version
like
of doing
that.
it than putting it in the Village Voice, because that's gonna cost us more money.
yeah, we could do that, something like that.
We
It's-
still own that sign, don't we, over by,
Yeah, it's basically, currently we have it where Fox West Chamber operates it.
still the villages and it.
Right, and they, I don't think really will, I mean, we've talked about it because they've asked us to update it, and when they talked to us about it, I just asked them if that's something they really would want, because it's not catching the traffic on the highway anymore. It's not, so, I mean, and I think they kind of were like, yeah, because I mean, realistically, I said, well, the village probably wouldn't want to pay for it all ourselves if it's going to be promoting places outside the village and all this other stuff, so. I think, you know,
I worry more about businesses that exist that we just don't know. I mean, there's a couple businesses that, you know, I stumble upon, whether it be on social media, that I didn't even know were in Hortonville. Or
Right.
they advertise that they're downtown, but then you look them up, they're not even downtown, they're more on the outskirts, you know. So that's really hard too. It'd be nice to have the businesses have some sort of hub. And to keep up a listing could be a nightmare too, you know. We used to have something called the Downtown Business Association. We
Right.
used to have that, but that doesn't exist anymore, right?
not that I, no.
Not that I know of. And it had nothing to do with the village. That was just,
Right, and it's easier when you have something like that to basically share the Downtown Business Association's page or, you know, work with them to do stuff. It
commercial
makes it-
club was a big thing years ago. That was, I mean, I remember my parents being in a commercial club. That was businesses. That was how that all. I don't know. I mean, just wondering, is there something, somebody not on board level, but could spearhead at least getting people to regenerate interest in that business association.
I just think, like, online sounds great. I don't wanna add an expense to the Village Voice, but, the benefit of it is gets directly mailed to every resident. Cause there's residents that do not come downtown. So if you
Right.
give them some interesting information, I like reading the Village Voice, but, they'd be like, oh my God, there's 90 businesses here. Just maybe a long-term goal, or, I think this community's gonna keep growing and we're in a nice spot to,
I guess, I don't have an issue, I don't think it would be a ton of work necessarily if you do it on the website. The question is, basically, it might not always be up to date, because if someone leaves and doesn't tell us, their name will still be up there. I mean, it's easy for us to see, you know, when the restaurants leave and stuff like that, because we all eat in town and stuff like that, but, like some of the smaller businesses, the businesses in the industrial park, sometimes we don't know when they're coming and going.
Yeah. Which I think this could be a little opportunity to start building some of those relationships. And
I think a lot of them need to build relationships with each other is another big thing that they need to kind of, especially, I'm not talking industrial park, I'm talking more downtown. Because realistically, that's typically what they say, the state says basically through their downtown, they have a business group that we're a part of, but I'm the only one that's a part of it. There's no other communities will have a downtown business association member and another member from their, another few business members that are a part of it, and basically they kind of talk to you about how to update and beautify your downtown and stuff, but it's usually something working with the municipality, but the issue is we just don't have that organization. They can set up, you know, they can set up festivals now and block off the downtown and apply for those things, but it's not something that's normally done just by the village to do that type of stuff. It's gonna take the business owners working together to stay alive, and the village can help, but
I hear what you're saying.
I
I
know
have
it,
an
I know.
opinion about it. It's been a different experience.
I know.
I'm saying there might be a chainsaw company, wood cutting company right here in town that maybe everyone wants to know about, and then you give that person all of the business in Hortonville. Hypothetically.
Right,
Just
no,
saying.
I don't, like I said, on the website, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. We've thought of doing something that's a handout, that some other communities do for service-based businesses or retail businesses through their economic development group, but a lot of those are funded through hotels, and we don't have any hotels or motels, so we don't collect any of that tax in order to kind of fund some of that stuff. But doing it on our website costs us nothing. It's something that we could do, but it's not gonna be enough, I think, for the businesses. I think they need to also try to figure out things they can do together to try to work.
But I guess that's not exactly what I was researching when, how do municipalities support their businesses. It was a little more of a direct relationship, not so much what you're telling me. I get what you're saying. I can work with my neighbor, but there's like 10 of us downtown. That's obvious. I'm kind of looking for the people who are falling through the cracks and getting.
So the other thing you could do is you could hire an economic development director. That's what most municipalities that are large are doing. They have. The issue is we don't have the staff time to do all that. It falls on me, which if you guys want me to concentrate on that more, I would be happy to, but then there's gonna be other things that kind of fall to the wayside, planning, zoning, certain things. So there's only so much that can be done at staff level with the current staff. So there's definitely a lot you can do, because the Wisconsin Economic Development Corp There's a ton of programs that can be, you know, if you have an economic development director, they can sit and talk with the businesses about things they can do and grants they can go for. But it, you know, it takes staff. I mean, do business retention, is another thing that the economic development directors do. So they go set up meetings with, different businesses to see what their needs are and how they can support them. And yeah, it's a great thing to do. It's just, we don't have that staff member that has that time to do it. So that's kind of where I think a lot of this is gonna probably fall, is there's just not time in the day. At least currently, with the current setup.
Maybe something as simple as like posting or sharing one on our Facebook page, which we.
The issue with Facebook now is you do it for one, they're all gonna want something posted. And the idea of our Facebook page is, you know, news about what's going on in the village, and posting an ad for Hardtails, an ad for Bear Creek, an ad for the coffee shops down at Alley Cat. If I'm a resident that doesn't really care to see all these ads, now I'm not gonna follow you and not get your information that you're trying to give.
But we could put on the Facebook page, check out our new page on our website, blah, blah, blah.
If you would like to
Or
be on
a
our
streaming thing that says, you know, check out our whatever on the website. You could do that on Facebook, at least pointing them to one centralized
Business
business
directory
directory, blah,
page,
blah, blah.
and then if you are a business owner and would like to be on that page, please
Please
contact.
contact, blah, blah.
I like the neutrality of our Facebook page, you know what I mean, because like there's pages I like, but then so and so that I'm friends with is sharing the exact same thing, and I might see that same listing 4 times in the same day. But I also think that, I think back to, you know, years ago, you had groups in this community that were specific. There used to be a chamber prior to Fox West. There was the Hortonville Chamber of Commerce, and there was also the Commercial Club. And I really think those were the strong parties that really did a lot of those activities, the homecomings, the parades, those types of things. And I think we need a strong.
Didn't years ago, we also had a JC committee? Years
I don't know.
ago.
That I don't know for sure. I just
Probably.
remember Commercial Club was
Yeah.
huge, and that's
So,
really where homecoming
there are
came from.
ways to, the businesses could get together and establish something and promote each other, which would, you know,
And the village then would help them,
yeah.
you know, type of thing. But none of those events were organized by the village. They
Right.
were always organized by, you know, an organization. And
Yeah.
whether that be, I just remember there was a Hortonville Chamber, and I remember, you know, there was the Commercial Club. But I don't know what direction, you know.
Maybe we could start with just a listing of
Mm-hmm.
these businesses that you researched. Is that any way we could do that?
I'll dig for more information out of my own curiosity, but I'm just kind of getting a pulse on what can be done. Some of this information I just took off the updated village website, which I don't know who wrote the like about us part, but I think it said that Hortonville, in a 50-mile radius of Hortonville, there's 1 million people. Unless I took that off of like 50 miles and whatever. I can fact check that, but I was just looking it up as a municipality. We have a huge car dealership there. There's a bypass that just got put past us. We're just like ripe for growth, and I'm hearing things like businesses have to, businesses support, like they draw in members of the community. Yes, we don't want the downtown to die. I don't even like using that kind of language because that's not how I feel, but I do hear that vocalized, but I just think Hortonville can only succeed, really. We do need our businesses. It makes the community interesting.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying there's not
The resources don't exist.
the resources, and then there's very the stuff we can do, it's somewhat limited by basically trying to do things fair for everyone, and it causes problems sometimes with the stuff we can do. The issue is we just don't have the staff power to basically do a lot of the stuff. And, yeah,
Let's start with trying to put together a web page, a page on the thing. I think that'll be a good start. And then just, maybe we can offer, maybe that's a place for people to all get together and, send out a mass email if you're on the list and say, hey, we want to create something to promote blah, 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 and get that chamber or something.
I think this is maybe an opportunity to revitalize some of those
Right.
existing.
But we have to connect those people to each other right now, because, right, there's nothing connecting anybody.
Right.
Anything else? Okay, we'll go to 11, report of village officials. A, clerk treasurer, Jane.
My report was in the packet.
Any questions for Jane? Okay, we'll go to B, director of public works, Aaron.
My report was in the packet.
Any questions for Aaron? Okay, we'll move to C, police chief. Chris.
My report was in the packet also.
Any questions for Chris? Okay, D, library director, her report was in the packet. E, attorney Ashley, anything?
Happy to answer questions if anybody has them.
Okay, we'll go to F, Nathan, administrator.
my weekly update was sent out. Other than that, we did have a staff training this last week, 2 weeks ago, on basically Narcan training, sorry. So I think we had 20-something staff that went through that training, so.
Just a little sidebar question on the vending machine with Narcan. So we have Narcan training for staff, but we have potentially a vending machine that's gonna have Narcan in it. Does that come with something to tell people what the hell to do with it?
Yeah, there's, when we just went through the training and she said, if you're, all of a sudden you're experiencing where you have to have somebody use Narcan and you have an oh shit moment, like what did that lady say? There's three different types of directions in this little box.
Okay.
So you can flip open the thing and it basically shows you, that you place your finger, this way, put it in there let it sit there for 3 minutes, if nothing happens, and you shake them, and you do it again.
So it's
pretty dummy proof, and you can't hurt anybody.
It's not an injection. It's
No.
actually a nasal.
Yep,
Nasal,
it's
go
a
for it.
nasal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that the people that are getting it, that are trying to get their hands on it, already know how to use it.
Any other questions for Nathan? Okay, we'll go to G, building permit report. The month of May is in the packet. H, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussions? Nothing. We'll go to 12, communication and miscellaneous business. A, Black Otter Lake District news.
We had our meeting on the 20th of May, and Saturday, when we were allowed, we started the harvesting procedure over at the lake, and I was out there on Sunday, and they had taken like 15 loads off the lake already, and a lot more work to do, but they're finally allowed to get out there and do it now. So with that, and then we also approved a feasibility or a model study from a company called Emmons and Oliver Resources. That's going to take us out to a 20-year time frame on the future of black otter and what we can do to finally start doing something than just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. And,
I gave everyone a copy of their
Yeah.
proposal, so if you want to look at it, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I had a resident ask me a general question as to the weeds that we harvest. the big pile of mucky, what do we do with it?
We take it to a fill right out where the highway is
Or
out there.
stockpile area behind Otto Miller right now.
Okay.
We have had some inquiries from a local farmer who said that he could potentially use it, and let it dry on his land and then incorporate it into his field.
So just curious where it went.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't know.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News.
I have none.
Okay. C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News, there is none. D, Hortonville Civic Association, Jane is out. E, Senior Activity Committee, there is no report this time. 13 would be comments and suggestions from citizens present. Are there any? Okay. Then 14, I would need a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session with state statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically purchasing of public properties.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. 15, 5-minute recess to clear the meeting room. 18, any action on matters discussed in closed session? There is none. 19, I would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8:23, we are adjourned.